Hey everyone, welcome back to Average Joe Preparedness. I'm your host. My name is Rick, and I'm an Average Joe. If you're returning to the channel, I want to say thank you and to let you know that I appreciate you. If you're new here, stick around for a little bit, see what we're about. If you like it, if you want to, the only way to support the channel, commercial. The only way to support the channel is to subscribe, like, share, and comment below. Now, an SHTF scenario is different for all of us. It depends on where you are in your preparedness journey. Depends on where you are actually physically located. It depends on where you are financially. So it's not one definition. It depends on the individual. It depends on what's happening. It depends on how it affects them. More importantly, how it affects them or you. So it could be something as, again, I've used it before, like a flat tire, or it could be not having enough money to pay an electric bill, or it could be as bad as not having enough money to feed you or your family. So again, each person, it depends on where you are and what it is. And that's what preparedness is about. Getting ready for whatever can happen to you personally, whatever can happen where you are in this journey, that's what you need to be ready for. Now, as always, my biggest one is finances. So if you are not financially prepared, you are setting yourself up for failure. Obviously, we all know this. That can lead to not having enough money for food, not having enough money to get a new tire if one blows out, not having enough money to pay the electric bill. It's a basic thing. The more financially prepared you are, the better you are to react to things. So I harp on it on every video just a little bit, and now I'm going to give you, for those people that are early in their journey, and moving up, let me give you a little tip on saving money. Yes? Now this one's simple. It has to do with electricity or gas. It has to do with utilities. So most of us, when we were growing up, or at least it was me, and I'm pretty sure my generation, one of the simplest things was we were always told, if you're not in a room, turn out the lights. My parents would be like, oh, we don't have the money to light up the whole house. And now that I've grown up and I was here and I'm moving in this direction, I was, poor. So one of the simplest things you can do, or some of the simplest things that we can do, is if you leave a room, turn off the light. If you walk into a room and you don't really need that light to take care of your business, don't turn it on. The saving electricity. Right now, the cost of utilities is going up. I can't do anything about that, except small little steps. So I keep my house, if I walk into a room, I need the light, I turn the light on. If I walk out, I turn it off. If I walk into a room and I don't need it, I don't turn it on. And then I've tried to replace my light bulbs with ones for the room. I don't know if you've ever walked into a room, turn on the light, and it's like, oh my gosh, for this room, that light's too bright. Just go ahead, reduce the wattage, and light the room as it should be. And it just saves you a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. Now, when it comes to heating or cooling your house, again, major appliances use a lot of electricity. So like right now, winter is coming. It's cold here. I don't know where it is where you are. If you don't live in someplace where it gets cold at all, okay. But case in point, you see my shirt, I am wearing an undershirt. This is actually a thermal. So inside the house, I keep my thermostat low. It's a little chilly. If you were to walk in my house, you go, oh, it's a little chilly. You could turn the heat up. Yes, I could turn the heat up. Or I can just wear an undershirt. Or I could wear a hoodie or a sweater. It's winter time anyways. It's little things like that. A central air conditioning, which we have, central air conditioning or any kind of air conditioning, heating or cooling, takes electricity. It takes gas. Excuse me. Your utilities cost you money. And it's little things you do each day is just getting in that habit that's going to help you move. Yes? All right, that's enough about finances. A little tip right there, kicking a dead horse. Let's move on. Talking about raised garden beds. Now, in my other videos, I've talked about how I'm just starting to garden just a little bit. if nothing else, it's just a hobby that old people get, I guess, and I'm getting old. So, so I went outside, I shot some stuff, I'm gonna cut it in here. And the first one is going to be my first raised garden bed and the things that I have in it. Right, this is my first raised garden bed from 3 years ago. And it's basically on the side of the house. I call it the dead space. I don't know, usually you just throw stuff here. Like, I've got some lumber and stuff that I use back there. But I just wanted to show you that I use this as my established bed. This is asparagus, as well as that. I've talked about them before. This one is 3 years, and if you can notice, it's still way end of season and it's still putting out shoots. They're little babies, but supposedly the longer it grows, the more established it gets, and hopefully we'll be eating asparagus next year. This one, you'll notice I cut it back and it stopped, except for the one main stalk. This one is 2 years old. Next year we may be eating off of it. We'll have to wait and see. But basically you're supposed to just let them go, let them establish their root system. As I said, asparagus takes like 3 to 4 years. We'll see. This is oregano, and as you can tell, it loves it here. And this is onion chives, which just keeps growing. Now I use the rest of the space each year to plant other things to see if I can get anything else to establish here. But usually no, it's just annual stuff, and we'll just keep using this bed until eventually I can get it full of established plants. Now that's how I started. And then 2 years ago, I made a second raised garden bed that I built. The first one, I don't know if you could tell, it was something I ordered off the internet and I got it really cheap, and you can tell by looking at it that it is really cheap, because I wasn't sure it's what I wanted to do. So I just like stuck my little toe in the water. And as you could probably tell, the second raised garden bed and the ones I did this year, I built myself, and it was a lot less expensive, trying to do things on your own. So let me show you a clip of those garden beds. This is my second raised garden bed. This is from 2 years ago, and you can tell the wood. And again, it's just on the side of the house. There's nothing there. I'm putting stuff in here to prep it for the spring. And then this year, I think I mentioned about the price of lumber going down so I could get it. I've put 1, 2, and right here, 3. This one's a little smaller. Raised garden beds, there's the first one. And right now I have leaves and grass, and on the very bottom is cardboard and newspaper. And I'm just gonna let this sit over the winter, and hopefully it'll get a nice base once I put in the topsoil. And hopefully I'm not moving that too fast for you guys. I'll be putting in topsoils and the such to get these beds established in the spring. Now water, nobody who is into preparedness for any amount of time, or a contingency or a SHTF scenario, is going to tell you water is an issue. And last year there was a lot of places in the country that were suffering from drought. I think that happens every year. Drought is an issue somewhere. So if it's an issue with you, then you can see, let me show you water collection point that I use for these raised garden beds. Yes? Now I'm sure water's been mentioned before. So on the side of the house where I have the raised garden beds, which you can see there in the background, off of the roof, the normal downspout, I cut that off myself, put this on, and this is a 50-gallon water reservoir, 50-gallon drum, decorative. It looks kind of nice. I did it right because it's going to be there permanently, and I can take this water and I use it to water my garden beds, which are on the side of the house. Yes? And then finally, I've talked about composting and how I started really small and I started building it up. And so I have a little clip of the composters. I have the tumble composters. I did a bunch of research. I found some people that were really into composting. I wasn't, still not, completely, but really into composting. And the bins I have were like number 2 or 3 on the list. And the ones that are like 1 or 2, if you do a little research, are way too expensive. So let me show you a little clip of my composters that I've referred to before. So why don't you go ahead and take a look at those. Now in the back corner of my yard, behind my shed, I originally got one of these. This is a composter, one of the tumble composters, 2-sided. And then about a year later, once I got a second one, and then a year later, I got a third one. So I compost as much as I can. I can show you what's on the inside. I don't know if you can see that. That's just pulling that out. Then this is the next oldest one. Then we rotate down. And then keep them on until it's winter, they're not breaking down as fast. And finally, this one is ready to be filled, and then we're back to where we were. Keep them on a rotating basis, so that way I can try to constantly do compost. And finally, like pre-composting, I have, they call them cold composters, which is basically you take a bunch of stuff and you just leave it in a pile. But I didn't want the pile, so I had these little movable fences that I'd gotten over time for different reasons, not to use as a cold compost bin. I actually got them to like keep the grandchildren when they were really small away from the air conditioning outside, you know, little blade turning. Yeah, the grandma was concerned with that. And then we had a flood come from the neighbors, and there was a space in my yard that was like mud, and the kids came and visited with their dogs, so we used it to block that off so the dogs wouldn't play in the mud and tear up the grass. And then they were just sitting kind of in the back of my shed. I use them for little things to block off stuff if I'm gonna replant some seeds in the yard. And then finally I'm like, well, I could use these for something else. And so let me show you a real quick clip of the one that I have, or the ones I should say, that I have in the dead space, that's what I call it, in the backyard. Again, in the dead space in my yard, behind a tree, I have, this is 2 years now. This stuff hasn't been in here for 2 years. I emptied it. Second year I've been doing this. This is a cold composter. So I just basically put yard waste and stuff in here. I let it sit over the winter, and then come spring, I'll put it in my composters, and it's already breaking down, so it breaks down fast. And the latest addition is another one. This is this year. And I'll be putting these leaves and stuff in there. Again, dead space in my yard behind a tree. And I'll leave this over the winter, and in the spring I'll be putting in my composter. So now these things I just showed you, the garden bed and the composter, and the little quick thing about the downspout water container. These are just, I've referenced them before, and I've never actually showed anybody. People are like, well, you're always in the garage, you're just sitting there, you know, sometimes you need to show people stuff. So, and then hopefully you can see the progression. Starting off with one raised garden bed, you can tell, and it was cheap. And then another raised garden bed, which I did myself. Then a year without new ones because of the price of lumber. And now I purchased it once the lumber came down, built my own, and trying to save money. And then with the composters, I got one, and then I got another over time, a year later, and then a year later, and then the built up of the cold compost stands, you know, to help the compost, because you can accelerate it, but you can only accelerate it to a certain extent. But you can accelerate nature. And I can tell you right now, I've mentioned it before, my raised garden beds and my grass and everything loves compost. That kind of compost, not poo, not poo. I mentioned that before. All right, ladies and gentlemen, winter is coming. I hope you're getting prepared for it. I hope each day finds you well, and I hope each day you're taking steps to be more preparedness, looking at your life and making a part of your life. Preparedness. It makes you happy. It keeps you from worrying. It's a slow process. I understand that, but trust me, each little step you take will make you feel better. And there's like a little sigh of relief. And I could go into the news. I'm sure you guys are seeing it. Things aren't getting better. And I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. This is a good time. It's not going to get better. There isn't a pill or an app or anything that's just gonna, and life is good again. And I've started to notice there's a lot of other content creators, and they're seeing that too, that this is the way, you know, This is how it's going. And you need to be ready for it. You need to start thinking along those lines. Please, there's a lot of people out there like, oh, this is going to be over with soon. And, you know, whatever we're talking about, finances or the economy or whatever is, so it's not. So as soon as you get that in your mind, you'll understand, let me rephrase, as soon as you get that in mind and understand that, you'll start seeing your world, the world, a little different as to what you need to do to be ahead of the game. Okay, that's enough for today. Squished maybe too much in here. Don't know how long it is going to do the editing thing. But if you did like it, commercial. If you did like it, please subscribe and like. You can comment down below. Please keep it positive. I believe in the comment section there's an email if you want to get a hold of me. If you have any questions about what average people can do, if I can't help you, I'll find somebody that can. And or ideas for future videos, or maybe remind me of something I talked about and I hadn't got back to yet. That's up to you. It's good to see you here. So until next time, be happy, be positive, be prepared.